Hello, my friend. It's Pat Sloan here for Block Wednesday, and we are on Fall Frolic, and this is block number 3. Ta-da! It is the sweater. Sweaters are something for fall that are cozy and warm, and we might wear the same sweater often because it feels comfy and comforting. So you do have a favorite sweater. When you show this block, if you happen to have a favorite sweater, put it on and show it. I talk about one in the pattern, and I was going to go look for it, and I made a mild attempt. I figured it would probably take me 3 hours to find the photo. If I'm not looking for it, it'll be the first one I find. So if I find it during the Fall Frolic, I will bring it up and show it to you. Now wait till the end too, because I have one little thing that I found when I was looking at photos that I want to show you. So let's take a look at some ways this block can be made. First, I want to take a look at all the color combinations you could do with this sweater block. One of the things that I was thinking about was if you have a bundle of fabric that you really love and you just want to do one block and repeat, this would be an awesome block to do because you can change the fabric and their placement, and so each block could actually look really different. So I'm going to show you what that is and how those combinations can look together in a way I visualize it. Then after that, I will do a demo on the foundation papers, which are used in the sashing for the Fall Frolic. Now, I think really picking the fabric, is my fun part. I love it. So let's get, okay. Now I'm going to definitely just use this as the light squares. Oops, let me put the pattern out. So these 4 light squares. I want to have one of the prints that have the lights that have a little bit more pattern on them, and then I will have enough left to use in another block, so that'll be pretty cool. So that'll be that those corners are. So really what I'm doing is I'm looking at what do I want for the flying geese, behind the flying geese, and then the darker square here. So it's 3 fabrics plus this 4th one. And I will do these the same. You don't have to. You could make these different. They could do the inside as one coloration and those 4 outer ones as a different set of fabric. So however that suits you and your thinking. All right, so I can audition a flying geese by just taking my rectangle, this is a fat quarter, and just folding the edges under. And even though this is like much bigger than what it is in the pattern, it gives me totally the idea of what the color is. And so I want to get some yellow in. Remind you what the other 2 blocks are. So I've got the teal in this one, I've got the pumpkin colors in this one, I'm having the burgundies or reds in each block. So that's the goal. There's just 9 blocks, so having a plan at the beginning is really helpful. So if I do the yellow, what could be over here? I could put a teal, I could put a dark teal. That would look pretty nice. So what about some other colorations? I'm just going to go through a bunch here so you'll see how this could sort of change out. What if you just flip them? You put the teal here and the yellow would be out there. Now these 2 teals are really dark. I mean, this teal is really dark. It's dark as the burgundy. So you don't really see that flying geese as well. It doesn't pop off of there as well. So let's try that. Remember, this is going to stay. I'm just changing these 2 fabrics out to see what would go with it. So that lighter one looks really good. You could do all teal. You could change it to a dark and a dark like that. That would be really neat. What if I go a totally different way? Let's take the teals away. And I have the sort of gray from the line, which I haven't used yet since I've only done 2 blocks. I have a lot of the, several of the fabrics like the yellow, the pink, and the gray and the green have not been used at all. So I want to get some of that in each of the next blocks, and then I can play around. So what if I did it like this? So that would be a lot of gray and then the pops of the pinks out on the corners here, or you could flip it. See, and this is how you could take this whole collection and just make this block over and over by switching out what you're doing. So there would be the pink against that, which is really kind of nice. I like that. What if we go with the green? See what the green does. This looks very Christmassy, I think. It looks very Christmassy. I love it. It's also dark, like we noted before. There are some lighter greens, but first let's see, if I put the yellow up there. There are some lighter greens. So here, like that would pop a lot better than this one, but that would be cool maybe if you did the darker on the insides and the lighter on the outside. For here, you switched it up. They're still green, but dark then light. That would give a really nice block. All right, so, and the yellow looks good with it, but what if we did black? Ooh, what if we did black? That is nice. I like adding the black. You can see I like black a lot in adding it in little bits. I've done it on some of the other quilts. It just adds a little touch. What if I went back to the yellow and have the black? See there, that's really nice too. So I'm really liking that. These two combinations, either the green behind it or the yellow behind it. And I'm going to do mine where they're all the same. I'm going to do both sets of flying geese. I don't want to switch it out. There's the other yellow. There's only two yellows. So that yellow is a little deeper and has more pattern on it. Well, it has a different pattern. It has that little bit bigger pattern on it. But I'm kind of liking this yellow, to bring the yellow in now. And then that still means I have the green, then the pink and the gray, if I decide to bring the gray in. These are the three other colors that I haven't used yet. All right, that looks like a winner to me. I cannot stress enough to do one square, sew the square on, flip it, and then measure this and flip it over to check it to be sure that it's all coming out right on the edges, because if you don't do that, you will end up with pieces like this. Do you see how this top was, I didn't do the line straight enough so that it is not reaching all the way to the edge? Well, if I just trim this part off here, then that means this straight edge around here is lower, and you will then line up the next patchwork on there, which is quite a bit off, and then your whole block is going to be skewed. On the opposite side, this looks great on the top. So if you just flipped it over, trimmed the back, you'd be like, yes, but instead look at here. It is too long. I didn't do that line very well either. So you can see how it stretches out over. So I did these examples so that you could see. This one, both of these need redone, so I need to be smart on the line. And you can actually see on this one where it is not right at the corner, which is why it is off. But on the front, it looks correct, but it's not. It's too big. And therefore, when you're lining up again, your blocks will be out of whack. Here they are, the second half of the flying geese put on. There we can see, and I want to show you, this is my favorite cutter for working with cutting these threads off in between on the chain piecing. So you put a rotary cutter in here, your old blades, and then you can pop this out and move it around. If one of the sections gets a little dull, it gives your blades a new reason and purpose in life, and you just go along like this and get all of the pieces cut apart. I love it. I have it over by my iron. Ta-da! Okay, let's sew this up. One more tip. When you're sewing the two flying geese together, put the goose on the top where you can see the point. Don't sew from this side where you can't see the point, because what you want to do is hit right through that center. So be sure this guy is on top. Here is the sweater block again. I really love how the black looks around the outside here, and I'm glad I went with doing the yellow. So bring the yellow in with all of these other blocks. Now you could have done, I could have done the middle with black. That would also be, I think, really striking. I think that would just be a really nice little addition. But I'm keeping it with the white. That's what I did. Now the other part that I wanted to show you today was the square in a square, which we're using for the layouts, and I'm using the foundation. You don't have to use the foundation. My pattern has how to do it without this, but I'm going to demo the foundation. So you're basically taking a foundation base paper. You're going to put one square on point, which I'm going to go to the sewing machine and show you this. So you'll have this on point on the back, so it'll actually be on the back side. And then we're going to cut the other 2 squares in half for the triangle units, and then you're just sewing on these lines. So foundation, I think, is a great way to introduce yourself to paper piecing. If you have never done paper piecing or were worried about paper piecing, thinking it would be hard, doing these little foundation ones are so easy because you're sort of completing it all in one tight little unit. You're not expanding it out to create this more complex image. It's a very simple process. So we're going to go over to the machine. To start, I'm going to use the open toe foot. That's this one, which I usually use for applique. I use it for binding sometimes. That gives me great visibility. I don't have anything in my way. So I'm just going to pop that on my Baby Lock Solaris. All the Baby Locks, they just pop on there really easily. The next thing I have to do is cut the square in half. That is for the triangles. So we had 2 squares you cut. It tells you that in the direction, and you want to cut them in half. That way I have 4 triangle pieces to be using. And now we have the paper. The paper's marked. This is just sewing on the lines. You're going to put the fabrics on the back side, and then we will sew on the printed side where you can actually see the line. That's what you're going to sew on. So you want to check to be sure that this square is covering, and you can either hold it up to the light or you can just fold it back like this. Now I will put a pin in it, which of course I'm using a unicorn pin because they're so cute. I also want to take my stitch length down a little bit, because I'll be ripping the paper off. Next is to take one of the triangles, and I will be doing on the back side here and laying it and then checking. So I've got to check that it is covering and going, so I have a seam allowance. So this is the line I will sew on. I can fold that back, and then I can see that I have green and the burgundy. I have enough of it. I'm not going to be skimping or having a problem. And you're kind of centering it on there. Now I'm going to sew from the white area across and then back out to the white area. When we trim it, we will trim on that line. You'll trim away the white, and that'll be the final block. So putting this under here, I will bring this in just a little bit, and I'm going to start on the outside and then sew right on the line all the way across and out the other side. And then do the thread cutter on my Baby Lock. And now I have the seam, and you can see the whole thing on the back. And just check it, pull it up, and it goes all the way out to the edge, and you're good. I press this so that I would press it, not just finger press it, because I want a nice press on here. I don't want it to be lifting up and changing the size of the final block. So I would go ahead and press it, and then just follow the numbers. 2, then do 3, and then 4, and then 5. And I'll meet you back at the other side of the table. So here we go. It's all done from the papers. It looks just like this before you trim it. So here it is, the front side where I just sewed everything down, and then this is the back side. So now I will have to trim it, and it'll be a 3.5 inch square. You're going to end up with 26 of these for the project here for your layout. And what I wanted to do was make a bunch of different ones. I may make a couple the same, but I think I'll alternate with outside as red and outside as green, and then do different centers on them. So to trim it, very simple. You're just going to take your square, and you don't even have to really measure, but it's sort of nice if you do. I just can't help myself. I have to measure, but you're going to be cutting on the line. So you're cutting away all that white, and you will just have the gray. Here's the other 2 sides, like this. And then when you flip it over, here is your perfect unit. Now this company, the Sew Emma, which is the Fat Quarter Shop's papers, they also do one that you could have done the flying geese from here. You could have done those flying geese with the papers as well. So that's an option if you have those. And now at this point, you want to take out the papers. So you're just going to just gently remove it like that. They're not, you know, these papers are thinner than if you're using your regular like printer paper, which is thicker. So there you go. So you just continue to take them all off. They just come off super easy. Ta-da! And you'll have your great square. So I had to start and stop the fall frolic today for our sweater block here against the Dresden wall. I'm just loving these blocks. These Dresden well, they're not blocks, they're table toppers. They're all belong to the Fat Quarter Shop, so I'm going to have to box them up and send them back soon and make one of my very own. So the other thing I wanted to show you besides our fall frolic block has to do with the Dresdens there. You know, I mentioned earlier on that I was looking for the photo of me with the sweater and I didn't find it, but I did find a picture from 1993 of the Dresdens I made. This is the Dresden table toppers that I made back in the early 90s. Yeah, it looks the same, right? It's the same concept, same thing, like I talked about on the video the other day. So I had to show it to you. I was so excited when I found this. Like, I had no idea that I had the picture. I have a stack like this big of photos of quilts prior to when I had digital of just my quilt photos. It's a huge stack. I got to, you know, scan them all, get them into my gallery when I get back to that project. Okay, my friend, sweater block time. I can't wait to see yours and get started on your little cornerstones. I love you. Mwah. See you online.